Welcome to another YouTube live event of Ideas Have Consequences, and I am coming to you live from Rome. And I'm not very good at this, but I want to give you a little bit of a view here of the eternal city and some of what is behind me, and the beautiful restaurants and the things that are taking place here in this lovely city. I am let's see, it is, what is the time here? It's about 6 p.m. here in continental Rome. And I'm ready to engage with all of you. And really the purpose of this particular YouTube live is to answer your questions. So I hope you brought lots of them. We could talk about Elon Musk and Trump and the manner in which I think that they are winning. We can certainly talk about recent events regarding USAID, and we can talk about other things as well. But just so you know, I do my best to try to stay in my lane, meaning I try to only speak to those issues where I feel like I have some measure of expertise, some authority, and others I do my best to stay away from. Now, um, let's just start with Trump and Musk and what I think is happening there. There is, so a friend of mine was asking me today, texted me, do you have any concerns about Elon Musk and DOGE? And my answer to that is yes and no. I like what DOGE is doing. In fact, the Department of Government Efficiency, for those who may be unaware, I probably wouldn't be watching this show if you were unaware. I love what they're doing. I love the fact that Trump, via Elon Musk and various others, he is in the process of draining the swamp. He is doing what he said he was going to do in 2016. And unlike others, I don't view Trump as having, betrayed his, Ann Coulter, for instance, has often said this regarding Trump, that he somehow kind of betrayed his mission in 2016. I think Trump came to D.C. In his first term somewhat naive. Here's a guy who was used to making his living through deal making, and I think he thought he would be able to come to D.C. with his own business savvy and sort things out. And I think he grossly underestimated the degree of corruption, even though he'd ran on, the idea that there was this swamp that needed to be drained. I think that he grossly underestimated the breadth and depth of that swamp. I think a lot of people did. And the result of that was that Trump came in and he took the reins of power only partially, because he never really had control of his own Department of Justice. He never had control of the CIA. He didn't have control of the FBI, the Internal Revenue Service. I mean, the fact of the matter was his own government had been radicalized against him by the likes of, Barack Obama. And this time around, I think it's been radicalized even more than when he came in 2016. But he's not running again. Trump can't run again, so he doesn't care. And also, they have done so much to Trump, from impeachments to trying to destroy his personal wealth, his family, him as a human being, with such extraordinary dishonesty, that I think Donald Trump is a different guy this time around. I actually think Donald Trump is a better human being. I think the assassination attempts have changed him. Now, do I think he's a Christian? I don't. He could be, but I don't know that. The Lord certainly does, but I don't. But I do think that he's moved more in that kind of direction, even if he is getting some, surrounding himself with at least some bad spiritual advisors like a Paula White, for example. But I do think he's been changed. And, it's been said that if you are going to strike a king, you had better kill the king. Because if you do not, and he survives, then he has become extremely powerful man who is enraged. And I think that's Trump. Now, do I think Trump is out for revenge? I really want to commend Trump for the fact that I don't think that he's seeking revenge. Listen, revenge is bad government policy. It's very bad policy at a personal level or at a corporate level, at a governmental level, because something like that never ends, and it becomes generational. You end up with Hatfields and McCoys, and that's no good for anyone. Rather, what I want to see from Donald Trump and what I'd like to believe that he's seeking is justice. Justice is a very different thing from revenge. So it's not that it's so much that I want to see revenge on the Adam Schiffs or the Nancy Pelosi's or other notable Democrats, guys like, say, George Soros or members of the World Economic Forum. What I want to see is justice. I want to see justice served. I want to see order restored. I want to see the rule of law respected. I want there to be consequences for people who have not merely broken our laws, but who have flaunted them, who have behaved in a manner that says they are above the law. And I want to see justice for the American people. I want to see justice for people who have suffered as a result of the wickedness of Democrats and their globalist allies. Those are things that I very, very much want to see. And it feels to me right now that this is the direction that Donald Trump's government is moving. Now, why am I not concerned about Elon Musk and DOGE? Well, because I feel like Musk is in a good lane for Elon Musk. The Department of Government Efficiency seems like something he's very well equipped for, and he and his team of techies have gone about this in a way that at least the appearance is that it's been done both with integrity, aggressively, and effectively. They have a long way to go. There's an awful lot of bodies that are buried that they're going to have to uncover. There's an awful lot of money that's been hidden that they're going to have to uncover, and there's a lot of dirty deeds that they're going to have to reveal. But I do feel like that they're on that particular path. Now, Musk, in answering my friend's question, if I had any concerns about Musk, my only concerns about Musk are this. I don't think Musk has a coherent worldview. I do think Elon Musk is, obviously he's exceptionally bright and clearly scientifically, technologically, engineering. He has a very deep understanding in that direction. But I don't think Musk has thought through very carefully what he believes and why he believes it. And so he adheres to a kind of vague a Judeo-Christian worldview by his own admission, but it doesn't seem to apply to his personal life. So here's a guy that's going around and having as many children as possible with as many partners as it seems as might make themselves available to him if they're attractive. And that makes him a guy who isn't really much of a model in the moral sense. But I am grateful for what Musk is doing in terms of saving free speech, at least for the time being in the United States, which he has done. I think he's trying to do the same thing in Europe. And I'm very grateful for what he's doing with DOGE. And for those who may be new to this, I said shortly after I was saying before the election, and I said afterwards, I said before the election, if Trump wins, he owes one man more than any other, and that's Elon Musk. And I said afterwards the same thing, that the person he owes more than any other is Elon Musk. Without Elon Musk, Trump doesn't win. But a lot of that, to me, is showing how effective Trump is at deal making. Here was a guy who went out and he put together a vaguely conservative coalition, certainly an anti-woke one. And it's important that you understand the distinction between those two. Members of the posse understand that, because I talk about that a lot. There's a difference between being conservative and anti-woke. Jordan Peterson, not a conservative. He's anti-woke. Elon Musk, not a conservative, anti-woke. Donald Trump, not a conservative, anti-woke. Candace Owens, definitely not a conservative, anti-woke. What's the Muslim guy? Andrew Tate, not conservative, anti-woke. J.D. Vance, however, is a serious intellectual conservative. And that becomes clear in almost every interview that he's giving. He has far more than any of the people that I just mentioned. J.D. Vance has a very coherent, well thought out worldview, and it's based in his Christian faith. And that comes out in the things that he has to say about family, about policy, and what he said recently in Munich at the security conference, where he was laying out the Trump administration's views on free speech and war in Ukraine and all of those things. So I'm very, very impressed with J.D. Vance, and I'm hoping what we're going to see is, is a Trump administration followed by 8 years of J.D. Vance. I mean, that could help right the ship in the United States. But I want to give you opportunity to ask questions that you might have. I have no idea how many people are in the chat here who are paying attention to us. I'd have done this later in the day, except for the fact that it will be very, very late here. And as you can see, it's now getting dark here in Rome behind me. Jonathan asks, do you think the Supreme Court will stop DOGE and Elon Musk from auditing our government? I don't think so, because courts have not done so far. It seems to me that the Trump administration is on a roll, that they're going from strength to strength. And I expect that to keep going, because I don't see anything here that is untoward in what Musk is doing at the direction of the President of the United States to audit these lawless, these rogue agencies. And of course, USAID, my experience recently in Cairo is really just an indicator of just how rogue aspects of our government have been. And I don't think that I'm exaggerating when I say this. I try to avoid hyperbole. I do, because I just find it annoying when people say so-and-so is the greatest athlete ever. Ever? I mean, there's a lot of human history to reflect on. Have you seen them all? I mean, can you really say that? This is the coldest month ever. We're hearing the hyperbole again and again from environmentalists, always sounding the alarm about something that is the worst ever, the worst winter ever, the worst summer ever. Having said all that, I'm going to say this. I don't think any president has had a harder task before him than what Donald Trump has before him. The only one that would be comparable would be Lincoln, because in World Wars I and World Wars II, we had these marvelous anti-tank ditches known as the Atlantic and Pacific, and the United States could enter into those wars at leisure, and the American people were very united at the time of entry into those wars. Lincoln faced, obviously, it was a civil war, a very divided country. Trump, however, comes into office, and because his predecessor was a bumbling fool, was a man who Alzheimer's or dementia or whatever it is that was going on with him, had no control of his own government. And the result was that the deep state was controlling the country for those 4 years, if not many years, prior to it, and has become as deeply embedded. To me, it's almost like a scene out of what's the movie, The Exorcist. Trump has come in and he's carrying a cross, and Linda Blair's head, is turning around and projectile vomiting. If it feels to you like things are worse now than they were a few months ago, in terms of the deep state, it is precisely because it gets worse as they get more and more cornered. And they are cornered. They are cornered. This is that scene in the movie where the cross is revealed and the demon goes, That's what's happening. We are in the we're not at the beginning of the end. We're at the end of the beginning, to quote Churchill, of a battle that's going to be much longer. But I do think we are winning, and I think that thanks to you, the people who support my work, I think you have a right to feel very proud about some things that we've been able to do at Ideas Have Consequences. I was making all these trips to South and Central America over the course of 5-6 years. I don't know, 12 to 15 trips, sometimes very dangerous. And it felt at times like maybe it wasn't worth it. And it did, because it just felt like I wasn't getting any traction with it. Whenever I would write on the topic, it just didn't seem to get traffic. When I was talking about what USAID was doing down there, which was running a massive human trafficking op through a series of NGOs, it just felt to me like nobody was really paying attention. And I began wondering, I don't know, maybe I should just move on, and maybe this doesn't matter. And then what do you know? The President of the United States sees me in an interview and thanks me for my work and says, I'm going to destroy this organization. And then I stumble into, didn't stumble exactly, but provoke something at USAID Cairo. And it uncovers another nest of spies, as I say in an article. By the way, I have an article out today in the Federalist that discusses, that lays out exactly what happened at USAID in Cairo. You can look for that on the Federalist website. You'll also find that I've tweeted it. A lot of other people have tweeted it. It's getting quite a lot of attention today. I see that there was a question there from Natalie, I think. Oh, Maria, excuse me. President Trump has signed numerous executive orders to try to take us in a better direction. Do you agree with the level of executive orders? It's actually a very good question, Maria. I've often thought that executive orders have been abused, and they have been abused. But I think what the Trump administration, this is kind of what I was talking about before about revenge. I remember, I'm not a big NHL fan, and it's because I'm from the American South and you can hardly get any NHL on television. But I'm part Canadian. My mother's a Canadian, and I remember my uncle taking me to an NHL game, and when I was a kid, and I'm watching the game, and I was saying, it seems to me that you should check, hit the goalie. Why not check the goalie? And he said, well, you could do that, but if one team does it, then the other team is going to start doing it. And he says, and then it's just completely out of control. I don't know if that's an accurate representation of the rules, but this was, 40 years ago when I was a young man, when I was a boy, actually. And the point that I'm making here is, when you chart a course of revenge, then you better believe that when you are out of power, and eventually you will be, that your successors will probably do much the same thing and come after you and your people. It's just not good policy. It's not a good Christian policy, first of all, but even just practically speaking, it isn't. And I think what Trump is doing here with executive orders is somewhat similar, in that the Biden administration issued a gazillion executive orders. And do you remember what Biden's first one was? The very first executive order that he issued in office, it was on transgenderism. It was on males participating in female sports. That was his first act as president of the United States, and he was issuing executive orders right and left. And I think the Trump administration has decided, okay, you want to play that game? Well, we're here and we're going to do it too. And so they've come in and just come out swinging and have gone straight after the biggest hornet's nest they could find, which is USAID and the war in Ukraine. Both of them, I think, the biggest money laundering machines that Democrats and their globalist allies have had. And when I say globalist allies, I mean Republicans too. Some Republicans, Dan Crenshaw, Mitch McConnell, people like that, Lindsey Graham, who are all part of the kind of uniparty. Other questions? Kano says, I find nothing immoral about Elon Musk. Well, we operate from two very different set of assumptions as it relates to morality. Listen, Elon Musk he's not a Christian. There's no law that forbids him from doing what he's doing. So I'm not presuming to judge Elon Musk in the sense that he can't do it. He is an adult, and he is having as much sex as he can with as many consenting pretty women as he wants. And by the way, I have defended him in the recent episode, the drama with, suddenly I can't remember her name, Ashley St. Clair, the woman with whom he had a baby. And now she's suing him. And I defend him to this extent. What I think he's done and is doing in that regard brings nothing but strife to his life. However fleeting the pleasure, it brings strife to his life, and it has before, but now it is again with her. But it also is devastating in the long run for these children. They do not have a father in the home. They grow up with these, all these step siblings from, a host of other women. You don't find that somewhat immoral? I certainly do. But I defended him where Ashley St. Clair is concerned, because here's a woman who she understood the arrangement. She understood the deal. She knew that she was playing the role of concubine, and she clearly wanted it. She wanted to do that. She was happy to spread her legs for him. She was happy to be impregnated by him. But Elon Musk would have done well to take some advice from Solomon. And part of that is this: no mistress, any young man who is out there listening to me, please hear me carefully on this. No mistress, no matter what she says, is contented to be a mistress. Now, she may say that in the early stages of the relationship. She may say that she's contented with that, but that's just to get in the door. She ultimately is competing with the wife or primary partner, and that she seeks to displace. And that's Ashley St. Clair. Ashley St. Clair did not want to be a concubine. She wanted to move from concubine to mistress, to favored mistress, to wife. I am certain of it. And she saw that Musk, after he'd had his relationship with her, he was going and spending time with his other children and other, the women who are part of his, kind of harem, and she didn't like it. And she was very, very jealous over that. Well, too bad. You made your choice. You knew what the arrangement was, and you knew what the deal was. And now she's trying to benefit from it and up her social media game and to get money out of it. Shame on her for this, but shame on Musk for going around and doing this kind of stuff. I find it highly, highly problematic. And by the way, I say that as a human being, as a man who's made loads of mistakes myself. I am not sitting here holier than thou. I'm not sitting on my high horse. Rather, I'm sitting here reflecting on this as a Christian and seeing that this is highly problematic. And there's a reason why God created the institution of marriage. And that's because it's healthy. It's healthy for a man and a woman. It's healthy for children. It's healthy for a family. And it's ultimately protection for everyone that I previously mentioned: husband, wife, children. Other questions? Anna, will President Trump be able to bring down the high taxes to purchase properties? I think so, Anna. I don't pretend to have a deep understanding of finance and the housing market, but I do believe this. I think that's a primary goal for Donald Trump and JD Vance. I think that they have come in with an agenda to help the American family, to help the American taxpayer, and part of that is cutting off money that's going to other countries, chiefly to Ukraine and through nefarious agencies like USAID, and keeping that home for Americans with relief and taxes. And you may have heard him talking about that with a kind of rebate that they would send to American taxpayers, and the possible end of the income tax through use of tariffs and things of this nature. But yes, I think you're going to start seeing things moving in a very positive direction in terms of cost of growth. Well, just cost of living in general. We've already seen, gasoline is starting to come down. I think groceries prices eventually will come down. I think you're going to see a lot of progress in that direction, and it's a huge difference it makes when you have a chief executive officer who cares about the American people. We have been governed for the previous 12 out of the last 16 years by people who felt contemptuous of the American people, hated the American people, wanted to punish the American people. That in no way reflects the agenda of Donald Trump and JD Vance. Other questions? Alfreda, what are the key talking points to refute objections to DOGE's work and Musk personally? I'm Frank. Great question. So what do you say to people? What do you say to people who are saying that DOGE is something terrible? Or let's just anything. Let's just say that they're saying Trump is terrible. I think you have to pick your battles. And I have, say I like to stay in my lane. Some things I don't feel like I have any authority to speak on. This is one where I feel like I have a lot of authority to speak on this because I have debated, you might say, professionally. I fight for a living verbally, television and, things like this and in my writing. And, I have learned over the years, when I was younger, I think I would engage almost anybody who disagreed with me. I would want to change their mind. And it took age, it took experience to go, you know what, Larry, you might be wasting your time. This might be a waste of time. So recently I was walking through Prague, and I'm just going to ask directions. I'm looking for a particular restaurant that I can't find and that Google Maps is in no way helpful. So I stop and I ask this man. He's a Czech. And I asked, first asked him if he spoke English, and he said that he did. And I said, can you tell me where? And he said, are you an American? And I said, yes, I am. And he just went off on Trump. I mean, just went off on Trump. And I find myself chuckling. I'm listening to him and I'm just nodding and saying, yes, yes, very interesting. Now, about that restaurant, the point that I'm making here is, there's an old maxim that says this: a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. Now, a very good friend of mine who may be paying attention here, he has an uncle to whom he's constantly sending, say, an article of mine, or he may be watching, for all I know, a podcast of mine, and that guy comes back with just a flurry of hateful and unreasonable remarks. And my friend screenshots those and sends them to me and says, what do you have to say to him? And I always say, nothing. I have nothing to say to him. I mean, he's an idiot. I can't waste my time with somebody like that. And don't you either. Don't be drawn away into that. And by the way, I kind of take my cue from this from Jesus. It's very interesting that Jesus didn't reveal himself to just anybody, and he didn't waste his time debating with just everybody. He was quite strategic in the way that he went about it. And if you read the Gospels, you will begin to notice this pattern with him, that there are some people that he engages, and there are other people that he doesn't. And I think that's important. I think you need to. Now, we don't have his ability to see the human heart and understand, to divine the intentions of people, but we do have the ability to, if you're developing your own intuition as it relates to these kinds of things, there will be people that you'll think this is worth pursuing. This is a conversation that's worth pursuing. And then there are some people that you will realize, you're just wasting your time. Now, there may come a time with that person where you can say something to them, but it might not be now. And as it relates to DOGE and so forth, to me, it's quite obvious that what they're doing is, why wouldn't every American taxpayer, the first thing I'd want to say to somebody like that is, why wouldn't every American taxpayer want to see an agency that comes in and audits how your money is spent? Why would that bother you? Why would you have a problem with the IRS being audited for a change? Has that ever even happened? Why would you have a problem with USAID being audited? Why would you have the Department of Defense or the CIA being audited? If you have a problem with that, you're an idiot. I don't know what else. I don't know what else to say to you. There's just nothing left to be said on that front. Next question. Lori, not my wife, by the way. She spells her name a little differently. Do you think Trump is enjoying the job so far? He seems happy when he speaks to the press. I think Donald Trump genuinely likes people. I do. I don't think that's true of most Democrats. And if you're a regular listener to Ideas Have Consequences, or you're a member of the posse, one of the things that I like to point out is that leftist Democrats, or the global left, their mentality is to always think in terms of humanity, the faceless masses, the millions. They speak in terms of changing the world, this sort of thing. And I love the way Dostoevsky put it. He says that the typical European liberal, though this could apply to American liberals as well, that they love man in the abstract, but not in the specific. And what he meant by that was that they love the idea of humanity, but they really don't want to meet any of them. They really don't want to rub elbows with any of them. And you see, this contrasts sharply with a Christian worldview that doesn't speak of changing the world, that doesn't speak of the faceless masses. It speaks of your neighbor, of helping that guy right over there. It speaks of engaging with real people, the people who are around you. And in so doing, hearts and minds are changed, and whole societies ultimately are changed that way. But the conservative mindset is to really roll up your sleeves. The fact of the matter is, helping someone, ministry is actual hard work. If you've ever messed up your own life, you're grateful for those people who got into the trenches with you and said, I'm here with you in your mess, the mess you made. I am here with you. I love you, and I'm going to help you out of this. And you also know this, that when you've tried to help other people in their own messes, that it gets messy, it gets inconvenient, it gets disruptive to your own life. But that's real life. And anyway, as it relates to these kinds of things, I think Donald Trump is a guy who gets that. If you saw his recent, we concluded this in a previous, a recent podcast, Trump, when he was speaking with the mayor of Los Angeles in a kind of I wish I could see all of you and ask for a show of hands. If you haven't seen this, go and watch this episode of Ideas Have Consequences. It was not the last episode, but the previous one that has, I don't know, like 230,000 views now. And in it, we include this kind of town hall that Trump is in with the mayor of Los Angeles discussing the fires. And the mayor keeps throwing up bureaucracy and bureaucratic tape and speaking of government agencies. And Trump keeps trying to say to her, I really don't want to hear your opinion. I want to talk to these people, the people who have suffered, and I want to help them. I think Trump really likes people. I mean, most people. He doesn't like Nancy Pelosi, and he doesn't like Chuck Schumer, and he certainly doesn't like, and he just went off on Adam Schiff recently, quite rightly. But I think Donald Trump cares about human beings, and it's one of the things that sets him apart. And you see this with him because he is what it's part of what got him elected, is that Donald Trump is very real. He's not fake. And so he says a lot of things that sometimes are offensive to people. But part of what people like about Donald Trump is what you see is what you get. And he genuinely enjoys engaging with people. And I like the fact that I don't think Donald Trump could care less whether you're a forklift driver, which I was at one point in my life, or whether you're the CEO of a company, which I am now. So I don't think that matters for him. I think he just likes people in general. Next question. Regina, justice, agree. Order restored. Psalm 37. Yes, Regina. We definitely want to see justice. We want to see the rule of law restored. And this to me is the next big hornet's nest, because it means going after corrupt, high-ranking, government officials like Joe Biden. It means going after people like Hunter Biden, like Hillary Clinton, like Adam Schiff, like Chuck Schumer, like Nancy Pelosi, like Elizabeth Warren, people whose net worth, like suddenly I can't remember names going straight out of my head. You can all see her. It'll come to me in just a minute. But anyway, people, who make, say, $250,000 a year, but have a net worth of, 30 million. How do you get there? How does that happen? Well, it doesn't happen in most cases unless you either inherited that wealth, you've just been extremely lucky with some investments, or you're corrupt. You're corrupt. So I would like to see them go after them. Sorry, we're in the city of Rome here, so it's a very busy, noisy city. But again, this is not about revenge. It's about communicating to the American people that no one is above the law. No one is above the law. And we take the law very seriously. And it doesn't matter if you are high or low. The laws of the land, especially these kind of laws, must be enforced. And I think it'll also make a huge difference in the kind of people who are attracted to government. You see, the Catholic Church became in the Middle Ages incredibly corrupt, and that's what led ultimately to the Protestant Reformation. But how did that happen? Well, it happened because rules weren't being enforced, because there was a lack of institutional integrity, and the result was it began to attract a kind of criminal class, people who saw the church not as a place of service, not a place of service to God and to their fellow man, a place of self-sacrifice, but as a place of self-aggrandizement, of self-enrichment. That's what they began pursuing. And that's what's happening now in government. People are no longer attracted to government for purpose of serving their country or serving their fellow citizens. They see it as a way of upping their social media game. I don't like the new social media style of some of these younger, almost influencer-like politicians. I can't stand it. But also they're attracted to it because they say, wow, that's an opportunity for me to get rich, for me to have lots of power. So those are things I want to see come to an end. Next question. Lori, do you think legacy media will become more fair-minded in their reporting over the next year? That's a good question, Lori. Will they become more fair-minded? I think they will. I think they'll have to become a little bit more competitive, at least. We're starting to see, kind of a night of long knives in media, where a lot of these, fairly prominent media figures since the election have lost their jobs. And I think more are coming. And that's because the culture is changing. The culture is shifting. In 2016, when Donald Trump won, there wasn't an institutional shift, and there definitely wasn't a culture shift. Everything just moved even harder to the left as the left really doubled and tripled down. But I think this time around, things are changing because Trump's victory was so decisive. And because the American people have, the sleeping giant has been awakened. The American people are angry. The American people are sick and tired of the corruption in their country. And I think the left is panicked. I think they know they are in trouble. I don't think they felt like they were in trouble in 2016. Certainly didn't, by the end of Trump's term. This time, I think they know they're in trouble and the game is up. And for that reason, you're starting to feel that the culture is moving to the right, my right, your left. And suddenly you're seeing masculinity is in again. When I was here in Rome just a couple of years ago, my wife noted this. We were walking down the Condotti, which is a very fashionable, one of the most expensive shopping boulevards, just straight down from the Spanish Steps in Rome. And you have, Rolex and all of these, I don't even know the names of them, but high fashion that women wear, the kind of stores where women wait outside in a line and they only let maybe 2 or 3 in at a time and then lock the door behind them. And then when they're done shopping, they come out. I think one of them is called, is it Dolce and Gabbana, something like that. And, Hermes and stuff like this. Anyway, it's not the Gap. It's where Jimmy Choo, I remember seeing that name. So where people are spending, thousands of dollars on a silly pair of shoes, or something like that. And Lori was pointing out to me, look at all the ads. The women are in these ads, modeling these fashions are androgynous. And this was a couple of years ago. Now we're back, and she's like, it's changed. Those are real women real women with real curves, and they look like women. They're flowing mane and, looking kind of sexy and this sort of thing. Real masculinity and real femininity are coming back in. Corporate America is abandoning DEI. I think ESG will go with it. I think we're making massive progress in this regard. So I think the culture is moving in another direction. And because it's moving in another direction, it's going to become, I believe, a kind of irresistible force. And I think we're going to start seeing it in Europe, although the German elections, initially that looked kind of exciting to me, but now it looks a little depressing. Next question. Stephen, would love to see you sit down with Chuck Holton and talk about Ukraine. I don't know Chuck Holton. I don't really even know anything about Chuck Holton, so there's really nothing that I could say there. But if he's knowledgeable of Ukraine, I'd love to sit down and have a chat with him. We can enjoy a cup of coffee together and discuss it. Next question. I bet there's no gold in Fort Knox. I bet the British bought it all. We'll find out. Devone, I hope I said your name correctly. We will certainly find out. There's talk of there being sort of a live reveal. Might be like some of you might be old enough to remember Geraldo, having a live on television. He's going to open up basically the vault where Al Capone kept all his gold, and there was nothing. So maybe this is going to be very, very similar. We will find out. the second Bond movie, I think that's right. The second Bond movie was Goldfinger. And do you remember the target in Goldfinger? Fort Knox. Fort Knox. So maybe Goldfinger got it all. All right, next question. Sheila, what is the ultimate goal? What if the ultimate goal is a permanent surveillance state with the technocrats supplying the technology? None of the new admin personnel seem to disagree with FISA warrantless searches. This is an area that I have some real concerns, Sheila, because this is where I do have real concerns about. I just got an email up here, very irritating. Anyway, this is where I have real concerns about Elon Musk and why I'm glad Elon Musk is in the lane that he's in, but I hope Trump doesn't listen to him on some of the tech that Musk champions. Musk is in favor of some of this transhuman stuff, brain chipping people, some of the AI that's extremely creepy. I think we have to put the brakes on that stuff. It does feel to me that we're moving very rapidly towards a mass surveillance state. And I find that extremely, extremely disconcerting because personal freedoms will disappear in a state like that. And see, I'm not of the view that Trump is kind of losing his marbles. You're hearing the left's trying to say, trying to create the same narrative about him that we had truthfully about Joe Biden. So I've seen, claims, Trump has lost a step. He's not really with it. I see no signs that suggest that about Donald Trump. But I will say that his age, and to some extent, say maybe even my own age, that there are those of us who might be a little less equipped to understand and to fully comprehend the dangers of artificial intelligence. Now, I've sat at the World Economic Forum where these technocrats, to use your term there, Sheila, they love it. They absolutely love it. I mean, they're orgasmic, talking about artificial intelligence and technology and all this kind of stuff, transhumanism. They love that stuff. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And just because we have the ability to do something doesn't mean we should do it. Just because we can clone, does that mean we should clone? Just because we can put a chip in somebody's brain, should we put a chip in someone's brain? I think the ultimate goal of the technocrats on the left, I was telling my wife this today, I think their ultimate goal is to try to achieve immortality. I think they want to defeat death. I think they want to be gods. I think that's what they want. But, we're already seeing a slow encirclement of human beings with technology. Right here in my own hotel room, they put in here one of these Amazon, I forget what you call them, but you speak to them. Alexa. They have an Amazon Alexa in here. I unplugged the thing. I want it out. I don't want it in my room. Some of the stuff I do, I dare not risk that's in the room. This kind of technology I find extremely creepy. So yeah, Sheila, I hear you on that, and I have some serious concerns about that. And that's one of the things that I haven't seen. It doesn't seem to me that Trump is fully clued in on the dangers that this stuff represents. And that's because from the perspective of the state, the idea of mass surveillance is hugely appealing. If you're trying to prevent terrorists from getting into the country, that's a way, and an incredibly useful tool towards preventing it. But for me, there's this line, picture a line, and on one end is freedom, and on the other end is security. Now, I saw somebody tweet today that they weren't responding to me. I don't think they had read any of I was looking for something. I was searching something and I came across this. It didn't come into my tweet line. I just happened to see it. But somebody had tweeted that Cairo is one of the safest, cities around. And I thought, I laughed out loud. I thought, I just nearly got killed in Cairo. But The fact of the matter is, when you have a terrifying secret police, when your laws are draconian, yeah, you can achieve security like that. So on that line that I was talking about, if you have a police state, you can achieve security. If you go in the other direction towards freedom, it means you have to be willing to tolerate a certain level of crime. Bad things will occasionally happen by giving people freedom. I'm willing to take those kinds of risks to live in a free society, to understand the difference. And that's why a state sells to people, as they have always historically: give us your freedom, and we will in turn give you security. So it's always about your health. It's always for your safety that they rob you of your freedoms. And it's not wholly a lie. I mean, they don't really care about your safety and they don't care about your health. But that's what they're out to do. Next question. Excuse me. Fire good. Are you concerned that the next Democratic government will purge the bureaucracy of conservatives again? Absolutely. You know, that's the pattern we now have. Is, if of course they were doing it before, so we already know that this is. I mean, Obama fired a host of generals. He hired a ton. Fired a ton of judges and prosecutors. He was absolutely weaponizing government agencies against the American people. I blame most of this on Biden because he was the first, on Obama, because he was the first to do this. He was the first to weaponize government agencies. I mean, came in with the intention of doing it. But now, you know, you play stupid games, you get stupid prizes. Now all of a sudden, corrupt Democrats are going, oh my gosh, what if they do to us what we were doing to them? They're not saying that publicly, but that's clearly what they think. Next question.
We don't have any more.
Okay. Well, listen, guys, I am going to be recording another episode of WTF here shortly. And if there are no more questions, I do want to answer any questions that you might have. Let me offer you this little update. Some of you have expressed your concern for my safety, and I'm very grateful for it. And by the way, you know, if you were watching the buildings in the background, you may have seen a laser dot that has gone, you know, from one building to another. It's because right down here in this piazza, there are guys selling laser pointers. So I was doing, it's very funny. I was doing a show a couple of days ago, and the guy who was down there must have seen me up here and was having a little fun. So, you know, the laser pointer was hitting the computer screen. It was hitting these windows, these walls, and so forth. And these guys that I was talking to, they said, oh my gosh, they were joking. Looks like the Egyptian secret police is drawing a bead on your head, you know, right now. Which is, you know, it's quite witty. It's quite funny. I do appreciate those of you who have expressed concern for my safety. I did manage, obviously, to get out of Cairo safely. It's very disconcerting what took place there. And I kind of want to say this. I'm very sad that I don't think I'll ever be able to go back to Cairo again and go to Egypt again. And that is because, why would I be sad about that? Because I felt like I had some other things going on in that country that were very productive and very useful that I haven't talked about, and I don't feel like I can talk about, but things that I was feeling good about moving forward. And now, because of what happened at USAID Cairo, and that I am now, you know, very much on the radar of the NSA, the Egyptian secret police, that country now must join a list of other countries that I cannot return to. Can't go back to Ukraine. Can't go back to China. Can't go back to Cuba. Apparently can't go back to Nigeria. So there are these kinds of things that do happen. But I feel like I'm unsafe now? No, I don't feel like I'm unsafe. But I will leave you with this thought. If it is ever reported that I suicided myself, don't believe it. Do not believe it. I like my life. I like my family. I like my friends. Did you see it right there? There was the laser pointer. I like my life. I like my family. I like my friends. I like what I do for a living. I like my calling. I'm a contented man. I would never take my own life. So do not buy it if it's claimed. You know what? He went and he jumped off of a bridge or he stabbed himself 35 times. Not true. Not going to happen. I also want to thank the posse members of the Ideas Have Consequences, kind of our fan club, if we can put it that way. You've been very encouraging to me. I'm so grateful for you. I'm grateful for your loyalty. I'm grateful for your prayers. Many of you have told me that you're praying for me and for my family. That means an awful lot to me. It really does. And I'll take all that I can get. So please, by all means, continue to offer them. And I'm so grateful for your encouragement. We're doing our best on this show to give you really good content, useful content. I have a team behind me that works very, very hard, and I have people who support what I do for a living, and it makes it possible for me to provide you with what I hope is information that helps you navigate a very, very complex culture, a very, very complex world. This has been another episode of Ideas Have Consequences with me, Larry Alex Taunton, coming to you live from Rome.